insurrection in the Supreme Court has shown us exactly who they are. Supreme Court Justice Samuel Alito is blaming his wife, isn't that familiar, for the upside-down American flag that was in his front yard. And the Supreme Court is ordering Louisiana to hold this year's congressional elections using the map with the second black district. Okay, we discussed that yesterday and discussing that. So here's the whole deal, y'all. So here's the whole deal. Let me walk y'all through this. So this fool Alito, this is a story that was in the New York Times. Now, mind you, why is this coming out now? A photo was taken of the flagpole in front of his yard, upside down flag. He calls Fox News' Shannon Bream and tells her, oh, it was an argument between my wife and my neighbors, and it's very political on our street. Then he claimed that somebody had this vulgar sign that could be seen by children at a bus stop, except for one problem. Schools were virtual, so there were no kids at bus stops. Elie Mystal is a correspondent, justice correspondent with The Nation, joins us right now. Elie, I appreciate Alito talking because as he keeps talking, the lie keeps getting bigger.
You think? Look, you know where else children are? In front of Alito's house where they can see him supporting an insurrection. How about we talk about that? He says his street is very political. You know who the most political person on Alito's block is? Oh, that would be Sam Alito, who does nothing but make political decisions while clothed in a robe of unscrutable power, all right? So his story, which, as you pointed out, who is he telling the story to? Fox, the most politically corrupt news organization in the country. So why is this all happening, right? I think you bring up the good point. Why are we only learning about this 3 years after it happened, right? Well, one, we have a media that is invested in protecting these justices and lying to us and pretending like these justices are impartial when the media knows full well just how partial and biased and corrupt they are, right? That's number one. Number two.
Looks like Elie's signal froze. Hold on, Elie. Elie, hold on one second. Your signal froze just as you said number two. So go ahead. Now go ahead and start.
All right. So number two, why is this happening right now? And what we know is that right now the Supreme Court is trying to decide whether or not Trump is immune from the insurrection that we now know Samuel Alito and his wife supported. Right? So that's the key issue here. Alito has done everything he can to delay Trump's trial over January 6th. And in a couple of weeks, Alito might well be one of the justices, along with somebody else and somebody else's wife, who rules that Trump is immune from prosecution for the very coup that these two justices apparently support. So when we talk about why Alito is corrupt, this is why. Because if you actually think the insurrection was a good idea, you have no business being on a court that decides whether or not the lead insurrectionist is punished for his crime.
And look, these tweets from Shannon Bream were hilarious. Now, keep in mind, the last time Alito wanted to respond in the media, he wrote an op-ed in the Wall Street Journal, very conservative editorial page, so we know what that's all about. So she's posted, I spoke directly with Justice Alito about the flag story in the New York Times. In addition to what's in the story, he told me a neighbor on their street had a F Trump sign that was within 50 feet of where children await the school bus in January 21st. Mrs. Alito brought this up with the neighbor. According to Justice Alito, things escalated and the neighbor put up a sign personally addressing Mrs. Alito and blaming her for the January 6th attacks. Justice Alito says he and his wife were walking in the neighborhood and there were words between Mrs. Alito and a male at the home with the sign. Alito says the man engaged in vulgar language, including the C word. Following the exchange, Mrs. Alito was distraught and hung the flag upside down, quote, for a short time. Justice Alito says some neighbors on his street, quote, are very political and acknowledges it was a very heated time in January 2021. Now, she wrote, adding some reaction, first from Senate Judiciary Committee Chair Dick Durbin. Justice Alito should recuse himself immediately from cases related to the 2020 election and the January 6th insurrection, including the question of the former president's immunity in U.S. versus Donald Trump, which the Supreme Court is currently considering. Hakeem Jeffries. Samuel Alito should apologize immediately for disrespecting the American flag and sympathizing with right-wing violent insurrectionists. He must recuse himself from cases involving the 2020 election and former President Donald Trump. Now, the people behind Stop the Steal, the Michael Flynn's of the world, that's what they've also been doing. Their sign is an upside-down American flag. Now, how many of us can remember the Robert Redford movie? What was it called? The Castle? And in The Castle, he plays a general who is in a military prison, and there's this battle going on. Everybody knows what an upside-down American flag means. And so that is a strong voice of dissent. How in the hell are you pissed with a neighbor and you put your American flag upside down? That is supposed to represent the nation, not, oh, I'm pissed off with my neighbor. That's a much larger statement, and that's what the movie The Last Castle was about. So we know what this is all about. Alito's not fooling anybody.
You notice he's not disavowing that he knows what the flag means and what he was trying to do. Right?
Boom.
Look, if a Black Lives Matter protester, right, put their flag upside down, that was our thing, that our Black Power thing was to put the flag for desecrating and violating the American flag, right? So, like, that's the kind of person that we're dealing with here. But here's the other thing, Roland, and I think it's funny to point out here how Alito is not even denying that he did the thing that everybody saw him do, right? He's just saying that we shouldn't care about it. But he's not denying fundamentally supporting the insurrection, supporting Trump, and yet sitting in judgment over whether or not Trump should be brought to justice for his actions, right?
Yeah,
so the fundamental issue here, well, we can go back and forth about, like, was the wife doing it? Or did he, like, it doesn't matter. Alito himself is not denying the underlying issues. He's just saying it was justified because people were mean to him on the street. Well, Roland, you are in black media. I am in black media. What Alito is talking about with people coming into his face in public, that sounds like Tuesday to me, right? That sounds like every day I go, like, west of the Hudson River, being a black man in the media, right? Like, we get comments directed at us all the time. And I'm real sorry if Sammy Boy and his wife had to take 2 seconds of what it's like for most black people out here who dare to be loud and vocal and righteous in public. But Alito has decided to make himself a voice for the conservative movement.
Yep.
And so, you know what? You are going to get some pushback. You are going to get some pushback from your neighbors who, you know, Alito didn't mention about whether or not the couple who put up the F Trump sign, whether or not they perhaps liked to have abortion rights, right? Didn't mention if that couple perhaps was in favor of affirmative action, right? Didn't mention any of that. Only all he was, oh, they were mean to Trump. Well, yeah, it's about time that people were mean to Trump, and it's about time people were mean to the people who enable Trump, and that is Sam Alito.
And let me also say this here. You are one of 9 appointed individuals who hold supreme and extreme power. 9 lifetime appointments. Now, I get husbands and wives. I get, you know what, your wife has rights and things along those lines. But let me be perfectly clear. I'm not on the Supreme Court, Elie. I'm not on the Supreme Court. But if my wife did something that I knew if the public saw and what the blowback will be on me, I would tell her, take that damn flag down. See, I mean, because again, now I know somebody's saying, ooh, you gonna tell your wife that? yes, I would say to my wife, hey, you ain't the one on television. I am. I'm the one who's out here. So that is not going to happen because I know what that means. You are a Supreme Court Justice of the United States. An upside down flag is called a distress signal. That is the flag that sailors use when their ship is sinking as a way to signal someone else, help, we are in serious distress. A neighbor giving you some shit is not enough for you to say, I am going to put the United States flag upside down in front of the yard of a Supreme Court justice. Sorry, Alito, you are a punk-ass husband who agreed with your wife with that, and you're just trying to now put it on her versus being a man and own up the fact that you agreed with it.
100% I agree with you, Roland, and I think you're actually being a little bit nice because let's all, like, since we're talking about the wife alibi, let's also remember this. Alito, Samuel Alito, is the most sexist, misogynist prick on the entire Supreme Court. This man disrespects women who are in his courtroom. He disrespects his female colleagues on the court. He disrespects the Solicitor General of the United States, Elizabeth Prelogar, when she argues in front of him. You cannot convince me on this green earth that a misogynist like Sam Alito has anything happening at his house that he doesn't know about and approve. There's just no way. There is no way in hell that Sam Alito's wife is out here doing some stuff and Sam Alito, misogynist that he is, just doesn't know about. Like he's watching football and can't be bothered to know what flag is up outside his house. Nah, that ain't how it works with guys like that. With guys like that, they control everything in their castle, as they would like to talk about it. So I 100% believe that Alito, if he didn't do it himself, I know he's blaming his wife from doing it. I don't necessarily believe it. If he didn't personally do it himself, he knew about it, he approved of it, and he approved of the message.
And he's like, oh, you know, my wife, she just did it for a very short time. So, you know.
Alito's not a honeydew husband. Alito's not out here on Saturdays picking up groceries and things that happen at his house and he don't know about it. And, the pool boy put up the flag. You don't, nah, man. You did it. You did it yourself, or your wife told you, go outside, pull down the flag, flip it upside down, and put it back up. And he was like, okay, that sounds like a good idea to me. That's how I believe that happened. And
we know exactly how these right-wing conservatives feel about pool boys, right, Jerry Falwell Jr.? All right, I will ask you a couple of things. You wrote a piece about the Louisiana case. I do want to ask you about that real quickly because the Supreme Court kicked it back by saying, no, the map's got to be used. But the brilliant, if all these idiots who were like, oh, this ain't no really big deal, you know, Ketanji Brown Jackson being in the Supreme Court, she's showing you her brilliance. Because she and the liberal justices wrote a dissent. And what people need to understand, and I'm going to show you, this is the map that Louisiana approved. 12 white folks, 12 non-African Americans, sued complaining about this map. The rationale actually made sense because this is actually the map that folks wanted, which actually makes sense. This is the type of gerrymandered map Republicans often use. And so the people criticize this map because it snakes through all of these counties. Well, the black folks actually wanted this map because they said this actually makes a lot more sense because of how the counties are connected. And so what Ketanji Brown Jackson said in her dissent was to the Supreme Court, stop saying there's not enough time for them to redraw the map. There is time. Let me take people back to 2022. The courts ruled that the congressional map was unconstitutional in early 2022. Louisiana's primary is not until August. But the Supreme Court, using this was it Purcell, whatever the hell, they say, oh, no, freeze it in place. So in 2022, an unconstitutional map was allowed to go forward, which helped the Republicans get control of the House. Well, we go into 2023. Delay, 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 delay. Finally get a Supreme Court ruling. We come to 2024. Now the goal was delay, 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 delay to hope they can run the clock out so the court can say, oh, you're right, freeze the maps, keep it in place. Same thing happened in Alabama. So what you're writing is what Judge Brown Jackson is doing is getting on the record trying to say, let's stop using this other rule as a reason to say not enough time when there was enough time if we had the courage to tell them to go do it.
100%. Jackson is playing not for this case, but for the future, right? Louisiana has 6 congressional districts. It is 1/3 black. That should mean pretty much that 1/3 of Louisiana's districts, 2 of 6, should be majority black districts. But Louisiana came out with a map that only had 1 district that was majority black. They were ordered by a federal court to draw another map, and that's the map with 2 majority black districts that you showed first, Roland, with the district that snakes through all of those different counties. Why does the map look that way? Because they're trying to protect Congressman Steve Scalise and Speaker of the House Mike Johnson, who both have districts in Louisiana but don't want black people in those districts because they might lose. So they, instead of doing it naturally, they did this snaking gerrymander thing to only hurt one Republican, a guy named Garrett Graves that I apparently don't like for Republican infighting reasons I don't care about, but protect the powerful people, Scalise and Johnson, right? So then, with this horrible-looking map, and it does look horrible even though it has 2 majority black districts, these 12 white voters sued saying, our equal protection is being hurt because we're not being overrepresented by your congressional map. And the Supreme Court said no to the white people. No, you can't sue because it's too late. And that's why Jackson dissented. She didn't disagree that the white people had a ridiculous lawsuit, but the argument that it's too late to bring a lawsuit over unconstitutional maps, Jackson was not having that. She was like, nah, there's always time. Right. There's always time to bring a constitutional challenge for some racist-ass maps.
Elie, I also think she was doing something else. I fundamentally believe that she knows that this is a bad map. Go to the map. She knows that this is a bad map. What she was also saying is, yes, there is time to fix this map, and really, this is the one that we should be approving. Because what people don't understand is, it doesn't mean that this is going to be the map that still stands in 2026. What they're saying is, freeze it in place. This actually is the type of racially gerrymandered maps that Republicans often would use. And I think what Republicans did in Louisiana was say, let's approve this map because we think they're going to rule this unconstitutional. Well, they got screwed because it backfired. I think because the plaintiffs, they actually prefer this one because this is what they normally try to do to black folks. And so it's going to be interesting to see after the 24 election what the Supreme Court then decides in this case, because the 26th map, this could be the one in 26. So she had a second purpose, I think, in that dissent as well.
No, she's always playing the long game. And I think that liberals especially need to recognize what we got here, because this Jackson is a woman who is always looking forward to the battles ahead of us and not looking backwards to the battles behind us. And it's really important for liberals to start thinking that way, because Republicans always do. Republicans, especially ones given judicial power, are always playing the long game. They're always thinking about what they're going to take away next, as opposed to being so worried about what happened in the past. And liberals need to start bringing the same kind of heat and the same kind of fire, because that's how that you have to know how the game is played. And Jackson's just playing.
All right, so Elie, we appreciate it. Thanks for breaking it all down for us, and have a good weekend.
Thank you so much. You have a nice one.
All right, folks, we got back. The panel is chomping at the bit to get involved, and so I'm going to go right to them when we come back on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. All right, fam, it is time to bring the funk with our Friday panel. Let's get it going. Matt Manning, a civil rights attorney out of Corpus Christi. Don't look like he in Corpus Christi. He must be somewhere else. So he ain't with his normal fake law books behind him. All right, we got Kelly Mateo, communications strategist out of Washington, D.C. Kelly always got her little artwork behind her, all colorful and everything like that. And then, of course, we got Michael in his basement. Michael Imhotep, host of the African History Network show out of Detroit. Glad to have all three of y'all here. Let's get into it. First, I want to deal with the upside down flag, Matt. Does he think we that stupid? Oh, that was, I don't know. My wife, she did that, and it was up for a short time. She's just a little mad because our neighbors, they call her the C word.
Yeah, he's not good at lying. I mean, low-key, he just needs to not ever try to do that again because we don't believe him at all. And the thing that's very strange to me about this is most of the time judges have a canon of conduct where they can't even speak publicly. So what's interesting about this case in particular is that the Supreme Court, because we know they don't have, ethics rules, they haven't had ethics rules, and that's been one of the issues that's been kind of in the recent news. But it's strange to me that a judge in general would speak on anything like this. Normally, judges do everything they can to make no public statements. And I know the Supreme Court is a little different because of their visibility, but it just seems to me like what you would do is run this through a PR person or manicure it as much as possible to make it as believable as possible. But running down with a Fox News reporter what actually happened and then trying to pawn it off on your wife when really it's just reactionary. You had beef with your neighbor and you wanted to make a statement, and a statement that you knew, because you're no idiot, that you knew meant that you were supporting an insurrection. This flag being upside down is a symbol that's known in this instance to be indicative of support for the insurrection. So, I mean, you're straight up lying. You're not doing it well. And I don't understand why you would do anything like that. Have words with your neighbor, go back in your house and keep it pushing. You're a Supreme Court justice. But the problem is when you have impunity and when you have a conservative media that is fomenting this kind of action, you have no real accountability. There's no loss. Say what you want to say. And that's what we're seeing here.
Bottom line here, Kelly, this is a rogue, hardcore, right-wing, MAGA Supreme Court justice, no different than Clarence Thomas, whose wife was a part of the efforts to overturn the 2020 election. These two individuals have no right deciding these cases. They have no right being on the Supreme Court. And I dare say this here. If people say there should be term limits for Supreme Court justice, guess what? The two people who should be prime examples are Sam Alito and Clarence Thomas.
Well, you won't get an argument out of me regarding that, but I just wanted to piggyback off of what Matt was saying regarding why he didn't get a PR firm to handle this, because certainly that's what I would have recommended. But it also goes to another point that Matt mentioned, basically being Justice Alito's hubris on the matter. You don't really, you don't play defense. You don't try to defend yourself when you don't feel like you did anything wrong. And clearly in this case, Alito doesn't think he did anything wrong. I would think that he's lying even about the whole wife situation. The fact that he is putting his wife under the bus is also in and of itself very misogynistic. So that would call into question the legitimacy of even that claim, right? But nevertheless, he doesn't think that he is wrong, it follows that putting up the flag that way for him was also, in his eyes, not wrong. So in my head, that also follows that he is a traitor to the country, because supporting the insurrection was also supporting a traitorous action against the country. So taking it that far, for me, it says that he shouldn't be on the bench at all because he violated his oath to the bench. He violated his code of conduct to the country. That's where my mind is going with this. It's not just, throwing his wife under the bus. Oh, he might support an insurrectionist. No, you're committing treason, because the insurrection was an act of treason. If you're supporting that, it follows that you too are a traitor. And the fact that he's a justice and a traitor shouldn't they should be mutually exclusive. They should not be in the same sentence as though they go together.
What's clear here, Michael, is that Democrats in the United States Senate should haul his ass before a Senate hearing. They should have done this with Clarence Thomas. They need to stop playing footsie. These two individuals should be forced to testify. This is no longer the day where, oh, you know what, the Supreme Court, they're exalted that, you know what, we have norms. Hell no. They are flouting and abusing the norms. They must be held accountable, because right now they're accountable to nobody. They govern themselves. They determine their own ethics policies. They've got no rules, no regulations. And clearly Supreme Court Justice John Roberts, he ain't doing his damn job as a Chief Justice.
Yeah, I agree, Roland. You know, they determine their own ethics rules and then really don't have any enforcement mechanism to punish them when they violate those ethics rules also. We know Senator Dick Durbin today has said that Alito should recuse himself of the two cases coming before the Supreme Court dealing with Trump. And January 6th. But I agree, you know, Democrats are in control of the Senate by one vote, basically 51-49. So whatever power they have, they need to use it while they have it. Okay, number one. Number two, it's important really for people to understand that this 6-3 conservative Supreme Court is the result of the 2016 presidential election. Mm-hmm. And oftentimes, so many people think about just one person versus another person in the presidential election. And I explain this over and over to people on various platforms. No, this is about the trajectory of the country. And one of the lasting effects that a president has are their Supreme Court justices and federal bench confirmations, because these are lifetime appointments. If we look at Clarence Thomas was nominated by George H.W. Bush, the father, okay, in 1993. Bush is dead. The father, Clarence Thomas, is still on the bench ruling on cases 30 years later. OK, and unfortunately for many people, especially a lot of younger people, Gen Z, Gen Y, and whatever the hell else they're called today, they only look at the president, but they don't look at everything else around the president and lasting effects. So this is why we need Civics 101. This is extremely important. And the Heritage Foundation, the Federalist Society, not only did they shape the federal bench, but the Heritage Action for America, the sister organization to the Heritage Foundation, they're the ones that crafted Senate Bill 201 in Georgia, the voter suppression law pushing the big lie, and the copycat bills in other state legislatures to suppress the vote as well. So we have to understand how all these dots are connected. And in some cases, many of our people don't even know the dots exist in the first place.
Indeed. All right, folks, we're going to do this here. We're going to take a break. We come back. Ooh, we got a lot we got to talk about. One.
Now, if you like this type of information, you can support the African History Network a few ways. Be sure to register for the online history classes that I teach on Saturdays. Ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Ma'afa, understand the transatlantic slave trade, where they didn't teach you in school. Visit our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. We deal with thousands of years of history and what leads up to the transatlantic slave trade taking place. This is a 10-week class. We're doing more than 10 weeks this time around. Next classes are Saturday, May 4th, Saturday, May 11th, Saturday, May 18th, and Saturday, May 25th, 2024, 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Click right here to register here for the class. The class is on sale $60, regularly $130. We do the sessions live. All the sessions are archived and recorded. You can go back and watch it any time. So a year from now, 2 years from now, you can still watch the entire course. We have the lesson plan here for the entire course also already laid out, so you can look at the content that we cover. We deal with 80 to 100 articles, and I put together this class. I've been teaching this class on and off since 2017. Okay, I've been studying history 34 years now. Do lectures across the country. Been hosting the African History Network show 14 years. But we look at, there's over 200 slides that I put together, 80 to 100 articles that we'll go through and look at. The 15 books that we reference. You don't have to buy any of these books to follow along in class. I'll show you excerpts of the books on the screen usually. And we look at video clips of interviews I've done with historians like Professor James Small, Professor Kabahai Watakamane, Anthony Browder, who wrote Nine Valley Contributions to Civilization, which is one of the books we use in the class, Runoko Rashidi, who wrote Black Star, The African Presence in Early Europe, which is another book that we use in the class, okay? So you can register for this. This content is PG-13. You can use this information with your children as well. Visit our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. Okay. And we'll post the link here. The link's in the thread of this broadcast. And you can support us through PayPal and Cash App, $ the AHN show through Cash App, $ the AHN show through Cash App, and through PayPal, paypal.me/the AHN show. So we have the information right here on our website as well. This is our official Cash App account, $ the AHN show, SHOW. When you go to it, it'll say Michael and show my picture there. These are fake African History Network Cash App accounts here that have been stealing money from us. There are a few other ones out there I've identified. I'm still trying to get them shut down. You can click right here on our link and it shows our QR code, okay, for Cash App. This helps us stay on the air, keep doing the research, pay some of the bills, etc. Upgrade equipment,